In the darkest nights, we find our light. Battered souls, but we won't lose sight. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, we stand tall. United forever. Strength and courage will overcome. Oh, surviving together, victorious, and never, never alone. Hand in hand, we'll face the unknown.
We see you, we hear you, and we believe you.
Helps if I add myself to the stage for after the intro. Hey, everyone. How are you doing today? So welcome to Surviving Together. We have a very special show for you guys tonight. And this is a safe space for trauma survivors to connect and build community on their healing journey, as well as providing trauma-related education for all. If I sound a little weird or if I have to clear my throat or cough before I get the mute button, I apologize. I seem to have caught a cold, and so it's affecting my throat a little bit. So I apologize for that ahead of time. We have a show, a very interesting show. It's a topic we haven't covered here today, and it's about gender identity. I know it might not be a topic that everyone understands, so we're going to try and break it down as much as possible. If you have opinions about gender identity, please be respectful in expressing your opinions. I very much appreciate it. You will get a warning, but then you will be blocked if you're not being respectful. And that goes for us always here. And I've never had an issue with it, to be quite honest with you. In the over year and a half that Surviving Together has been on air, so I don't ever anticipate any problems. You guys are great at kind of looking out for that and looking out for each other. And I really appreciate it. It helps me, especially when I have a guest on, if I'm interacting with the guest and I'm not as into the chat as I might normally be. Do a few quick hellos. Here we've got Crystal is here. Thank you for being here. And of course, we've got Indigo. She's waiting backstage. I'll bring her up here in just a minute. And Deidre Gore is here right now. Welcome to all of you. I wanted to start out tonight before we before I bring Indigo up, just with a couple of readings. I have this book. I don't know if you guys can see that well, but it's Each Day a New Beginning. And it's the Hazelton meditation series. And there's a couple of passages that really talk about connectedness. And it spoke to me, especially about what we're about here. And especially on a day like today, when we're going to be talking about some sensitive information. I wanted to read just a few of them for you. So the first one says, when we look around us and reflect on how our lives are influenced by the persons close to us, we become aware that our presence affects their lives as well. Most of us could never have predicted the events that would influence us, nor can we anticipate what the future may hold. We can be certain, however, that we are safe. There were times we feared we would never survive an experience. Perhaps we still struggle with fears about new experiences. But every experience adds a necessary thread to the pattern our life is weaving. We have the gift of reflection. We can understand today the importance of particular events in the past. Next month, next year, we'll be able to understand today. And the quote at the bottom says, I shall enjoy the richness of today. My life is weaving an intricate, necessary pattern that is uniquely mine. And that really spoke to me in terms of, what we're about here, and that we're all still on our healing journeys, and sometimes we have our struggles, but realizing that somebody else is there, and when we're there for somebody else, we affect their lives just as much as they affect ours. This other one starts feeling apart from the action and always looking on, wanting attention and yet being afraid of being noticed. No doubt these are familiar memories to most of us. We may still struggle with our self perception, but we can celebrate that we no longer drown our moods. Connecting with people next to us, though difficult, is no longer impossible. There is a way to be a part of the action, a way that never fails. It takes only a small effort, really. We can simply look with love at someone nearby today and extend our hearts in honest attention. When we make someone feel special, we'll become special too. Recovery can help each of us move beyond the boundaries of our own ego. So those were just two passages that I came across that talked about the power of connection and how much in connecting with other people, we're not only doing ourselves a service, we're doing a service to that other person as well. And that it doesn't take a whole lot to be able to start those connections. We just have to have the courage to reach out to somebody else. So anybody here who needs to connect with somebody, talk within the chat. There's always people here who are willing to connect outside of our live shows. You can always email me at survivingtogethersass@gmail.com and reach out if you have a particular issue. There's probably somebody in our community who's dealt with that issue before or is dealing with that issue and could use that connection. So those are just a couple of things that really struck me today. Thank you for putting that up, Indigo. I really appreciate that. Hi, Gen X. How are you doing? Thanks for coming. Oh my gosh, I'm about to sneeze, I think. All right, we're good. Okay, I am going to. I have another camera on order, guys. I've given up on trying. Sorry, I've given up on trying to get this one to work with Windows 11. It may be possible, but it just ain't happening for me. So we'll muddle along with this probably until by the time it gets here, be probably next Wednesday. Hopefully we'll have a new camera to show, so we'll have a much better picture for everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up Indigo Twin now, and we're going to talk about her journey on her gender identity.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for joining us tonight. I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm excited.
I'm going to put the trigger warning up. I don't think, I never know if something's going to be triggering for somebody, but I figure better safe than sorry. So we got
Oh, let me know if my massage thing is too loud. I can turn it off.
I can't hear it.
You can't hear it. Okay, my mic might deaden sounds around me, which is great.
Oh,
right,
yeah, absolutely. No, I can't hear it, so I doubt anybody else can. So,
okay, perfect.
well, I think probably best off just to start. Why don't you just introduce yourself? Who are you? What do you do now? What do you,
Oh, yeah,
you're
sure.
involved in a whole bunch of different things, and just kind of a brief intro, and then we're going to get started then on your early life a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Indigo or Hales. I've been on the internet since I was 10, lying and saying I was born in the 70s. So, I've seen YouTube come up. I'm older than Google. Fun fact. I currently work in the life insurance industry just as like an office coordinator. But I've had a lot of customer service jobs working in food service directly or doing over the phone customer service, case management for life insurance applications. So for the last 5 years, I've kind of been like neck deep in the insurance industry.
Okay, got it.
But yeah, I love to cosplay. I love to be creative. And there's so many channels like Mental Health Matters with Keela and like Jimena's channel that I kind of like support mostly in the chat while I get
Mhm.
things over here set up so I could actually finally post content to my channel.
That would be awesome.
But there
You just
won't
have
be
to
a
let us
single
know.
topic. It's basically my creative dumping ground, although it will be slightly quality dumping. Like it won't just be just like any project. Like I actually think the post through, but like I always have to be creative in order to kind of like feel good during the day,
Mhm.
because it's like without writing or creative outlets, I kind of get stuck and then I'm just I love to create things and collaborate. So
Oh, that's wonderful. So that's a
yeah.
definite positive coping skill for you, right? I mean, that you reach out to that and it makes you feel
Yeah,
better. That's
exactly.
fabulous.
Or talking in comments, like even on other people's channels, like talking to other people, because I think the internet can be great for that. Right? We have people in
Mhm.
Ireland, America, Mexico, Sweden,
Canada,
all
right?
Canada.
Australia sometimes.
Yeah, so it's amazing that we can all relate and sort of support each other that way.
Wonderful. We will have some Q&A. We'll probably save that for the end. But if you have questions that come up, if I can fit them in as we're talking, I will. Otherwise, I'll just star them. So you can just put, Q or C in front of it, and we will definitely try to get to your comment. So why don't you tell us as we explore your journey. That's a new word. I just made it up. Your journey, your gender identity journey. Why
There you
don't you
go.
explain kind of your early life to us? Like, up through high school or up through middle school, a little bit, just in terms of your gender identity.
Yeah, so um early me was very stereotypically female.
And you were born female,
Yeah, I was
correct?
born female. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so my parents kind of, I mean, they let me express myself and stuff, but I was kind of a tomboy. Um, More into like soccer and climbing trees and reading books and stuff. And so basically up through high school, I would say I was like female minded as well. Like I thought, this is going to sound like such a weird way to explain it, but like I thought like a girl.
Yeah.
But
I
like
mean,
there's so much stuff in society kind of like teaching people how to act, like mannerisms that women have that sometimes men don't, like stuff like that, right? Like how I operated or spoke to people.
mhm.
I would say because there wasn't really any words or labels that were in the societal mindset at that time, because I grew up from like 1990 to 2008. So like I was born in 90 and I graduated high school in 2008.
I think tomboy is probably the best way to describe it, even from my generation, and I grew up in the
Yeah.
70s and 80s, and I think that's
Yeah, I liked
probably
to
the
like
label. If you
run
weren't girly girl,
outside
you
and
were a
like
tomboy. Yeah.
my mom was like, "This is the clothes that you don't roll in the grass with." And I was like, "Oh, this is the Sunday clothes." Okay.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
Because church was like
exactly.
a big thing with my parents. Like I started out in the Lutheran church and then kind of moved to the Presbyterian church through high school. So I did have that community within walking distance of me every Sunday. And then the more I got involved with my church and like mission trips and getting confirmed and, you know, just that general stuff, I would say I was pretty much your stereotypical straight girl.
And so, you know, up until, hang on a second, I need to grab my notes, which just fell on the floor.
No worries. I also might have to bop down and grab an order when it gets here. I tried to order it early enough, but traffic like prevented them from getting here before the live started.
I'm sorry about that, guys. I swear, I think this cold has addled my brain a little bit too. Yeah, and I just get a little, you feel a little foggy sometimes, you know, when you have a head cold and it's just kind of like, ugh. Looks like DeAudrey and Crystal said they were tomboys. You know, I was definitely more of a tomboy as well. So
I would say
you know,
my
growing up.
dad encouraged physical activity and community over TV and video games.
Oh, good.
So like I begged and begged and begged for an Xbox 360 back in the day when that was like the newest thing. And he was like, how about you play soccer instead? And I was like,
good.
but everybody else has, you know, but now that I had those experiences, I think coming from doing community soccer, not so much through school where the teams are very gendered, but like I grew up doing community soccer, which turned into co-ed teams. So from an early age, I sort of, give me 1 second.
Guys, I don't know if you can hear the cold in my voice, but I definitely apologize. I've got some tea here, trying to soothe my vocal cords and hoping that that'll.
I'll be back. Give me 1 second.
Hoping that'll help as well. Oh, my goodness. We are going to be talking towards the end of the show after we finish speaking with Indigo about her journey with coming to where she is right now with her gender identity, about the intersection between trauma and gender identity. And there's some really interesting effects that trauma can have on one's sense of self and their gender. I was kind of struck by what I was finding when I was doing some of the research, some of the background research for this. Judge says the most girly thing I did was dancing, ballet, modern, and tap. Tap dancing was the only fun one.
Like, so, I would say I grew up with a mix. So I did dance, soccer. Those were like the two things I grew up remembered, like being enrolled in, you know what I mean? Like,
it sounds like you were really socialized with both genders from an early age, and that continued.
Yeah, so my
through your
parents,
childhood.
they never really enforced much like control over how I wanted to dress and look. Except maybe in high school when I tried to be emo. But there was a lot of like stuff leading into that, like trauma and bullying, and where they were like, should we put you in therapy? Because I went through a phase where my mom very much would not let me wear all black. Like she was worried about my mental health, which good, my parents were keyed into me as a person, which I
That's
super
fabulous.
appreciate.
Yeah. As we
Yeah.
talked earlier, you had an incredible support system in your family growing up, on the whole, that they were, with you and, have really been supportive
Yeah. Like
mainly
throughout my
throughout.
life, I think as parents, their perspective was we're raising a person,
Mm-hmm.
we're not molding a child. And so I don't think that any expectation that was in my head was actually put out by them onto me.
Mm-hmm.
It was more that when I observed other kids my age or other girls or other insert blank,
Right, right.
I sort of was like, oh, am I like falling behind or am I, whatever.
Yeah, the natural comparisons we
Yeah,
make
the
to other people
comparisons.
when
Yeah.
we're growing up, of course.
But I think that's why it never, and also in the 90s to mid 2000s, we didn't have, because of the historical aspect of the LGBT community, we didn't have the words we have now to describe how I started feeling.
Right,
Like they
right.
just didn't exist. And even an LGBT club didn't really exist at my high school till my best friend started one.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean he had to jump through hoops. Like he had to go get a teacher sponsor. I think because he was a minor starting a club, like he had to get his parents' approval because, you're staying late after school.
Right.
They had to take it to like the PTA and then the principal had to sign off on it. So it was like there was no outside my home area to
Yeah, it was.
congregate and talk about gender or sexual identity.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, I graduated in 1990, right? As we
I know
talked
we were
before,
talking about that age,
and
like age-wise, like how crazy
yeah,
that
there
is.
wasn't even anybody who was out in my high school. I mean, I come to find out now, that's to say, I think they were out to like a few select friends, but it wasn't common knowledge at all. So the idea of any of it, being around, so I can see why, for you then, um, we talk about this often with education, right? I mean, people don't on how important it is to educate kids about consent and about the possibility of sexual assault and using words with them, because if they don't have those words they're not going to be able to explain it to you, and that's so important. So
And I think
that.
that's exactly it, not having the terminology. And just to do a quick Cliff Notes reason why.
Mhm.
So prior to the 70s,
Mhm.
it was illegal to be gay.
Yeah.
Like if you came out, you could lose your house, you could lose your job, you could lose your family, you could lose your friends, you would be
Yep.
seen as like a predator, even though that's like a whole separate
Right,
issue.
right.
They had ads up through the 60s even where they insinuated that like, oh, that weird guy who likes guys is dangerous for your kids. Like you can Google the ads, like they're still
Right,
uploaded
they didn't,
versions on
yeah,
YouTube.
they didn't want that influence upon anyone.
Yeah, and so even in the 90s, you didn't really have outwardly, you didn't have people like Elliot Page coming out and transitioning midway through a popular television show.
Right.
The most you had was like a character on Dawson's Creek comes out as gay and then disappears off the script because they don't really want to get into it.
Mm-hmm. Audrey says there was nobody out when she was in high school in the 90s. And I
Yeah.
know she grew up in South Africa, so um,
Oh, wow.
different,
Yeah. That would be
a whole
totally
different culture.
different
But
there
I would
too.
say even in the 90s, I mean, it was probably very few, even in the 90s. And so what what you're explaining, into the 2000s. I mean, nowadays you go into a high school and there's so many different types of clubs for all different things. I mean, the list just goes on. I know at
Yeah,
our
and
local
that too
school.
is like, if there were terms, it was straight, gay, and lesbian.
Yeah.
Like those three. And then if you weren't those three, it was very confusing to people.
And
So
that's all about sexuality.
that's all about sexuality. That's not even gender.
Right. I think we need
Right.
to
Yeah.
to break that down for people just a little bit. So there is our sexuality, and then there's our gender identity. Our sexuality is going to be, who are we romantically or sexually attracted to? And that would be your straight heterosexual person, your bisexual, your, gay, lesbian, all of that. But then there's the gender identity. Do I identify as female, or do I identify as male, or do I identify as neither, which didn't come up until much later.
There wasn't
But
really a term for a gender or a non-binary, but you did have androgyny. So the big
right.
thing that I
Mhm,
gravitated towards when I was like, I just don't think and feel like this all the time.
mhm,
And by the way, like, I'm not transgender.
mhm.
So it wasn't like I'm here born in the wrong body disassociating because I think I'm a boy.
Right.
It was, I don't think I'm a boy. I don't think I'm a girl. I don't want to be either.
So when did those feelings start, or when did you start kind of having these inklings or going, ah,
I would probably say it started around the time I started dating in high school.
okay,
Because I mean, there's that image of like, dresses and makeup, and I never gravitated towards that kind of stuff in terms of fitting in with the crowd.
okay,
I would, I did it more like, like Kiss did back in the day, where they're like, we're having self expression, or,
mm-hmm.
like when guys started wearing eyeliner.
Right,
Or
right.
like the hair bands and their crazy outfits. So for me, it was never, I'm doing it because women are told they need to wear makeup, which it
Mm-hmm.
was really, there were so many makeup ads like on TV growing up.
Oh
It
yeah.
was like, maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline, or who's the next cover girl? And I would look at these
Yeah.
people and I would be like, I just don't want to look like that. Of course, I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
back then how photoshopped a magazine cover was. That's a
Yeah.
whole nother story, but it was
Yeah.
kind of around the time I started being like, oh, well, media and what I'm learning says that girls are supposed to like boys,
Mm-hmm.
but I also like girls, but I also don't really identify with being presenting and being read as a girl. So then I was like, if I could just be androgynous like David Bowie, that would be perfect. Right?
Right.
Like
And
if
well,
I
and
could
we
just, yeah.
no, absolutely. I mean, David Bowie, and there's a few others who were, in that niche as well. And then SNL came out with the skit Pat with,
Oh yeah.
the androgynous man. Is it a
Because
girl?
what
Is
did
it a
it for
guy?
me was, I remember coming across, and for me, I guess this would have been a decade and a half after they did it, because obviously David Bowie and Twiggy were like young adults in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They did
In
a
the
photo shoot,
70s.
or the 70s. They did a
Yeah.
photo shoot where the whole point was, we're going to dress Iggy as David and David as Twiggy.
Twiggy.
I'm sorry, Twiggy. And we're not going to tell you who's who. And we're going to release all these photos. And then at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the photo shoot, they were like, surprise, that wasn't them the whole time. It was the other person. And you really could not tell,
Yeah.
because they are both like the level of androgyny I want in my life. Right? Where people go, is that a man or a woman? I don't know. I really can't tell.
Well, and I think that layering upon this, especially Sophia. Oh, thank you for your opinion. But Indigo's journey is valid, but everyone is entitled to your opinion. So as long as you stay respectful, you're free to stay. So with this, though, as we were just talking about this intersection, it's not even an intersection, but this, you're saying, you started kind of feeling this as you were starting to date, and
Mhm.
there wasn't the separate discussion of gender and sexuality, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, they were kind
I
of used
imagine,
synonymously. Like,
right. So I imagine then as you're starting to date, you're like, okay, I'm not this, I like this, but I like this. So you've got these two things kind of meshing across each other, and that must have been a really confusing time for you.
yeah, it was because, well, it was weird because I could look back and see moments in hindsight, right? Because 2020.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like I really did identify as a straight girl until I was like 18 to 20 years old. And so when these questions came up, like when I would watch Xena Warrior Princess, like, because
Mm-hmm.
who doesn't love Lucy Lawless? Like, let's be honest. You don't have to. I'm just saying she's beautiful. But when I
Right.
would watch the show, that was kind of the time I would get the inkling of like, okay, maybe I'm not straight,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also not a lesbian. And by the way, like bisexual wasn't really an
The
accepted.
nomenclature. Yeah, the
It's
nomenclature
still not
wasn't there yet.
accepted. I've still had people be like, "Oh, you still haven't chosen. This is a long phase." And I'm like, "It's not a phase."
You haven't chosen. It's like you
Well,
picked
no,
a
that
team.
I mean, that is the dialogue. Like even within the LGBT community, there's so many people who function on the binary because if they're seen and presented as being on the binary, they're more accepted. So like if you're a lesbian woman, you're more accepted than a bisexual non-binary person because
Mm-hmm.
people are like, well, what do you mean? Like you're either male or female. And I'm like, I'm not like mentally, I'm not either. Cause I kind of tell people I guess not the people who can't visualize things in their head. Cause there are people who just they don't have that skill. But it's like
Mm-hmm.
if someone were to tell you to close your eyes and describe how you see yourself in your own head, a
Mm-hmm.
majority of people would describe the gender they're born as. Right?
Right.
Like most people would. People who are trans don't. From very early ages, they say, when I see myself as the opposite gender than I was born.
Mm-hmm. Um,
Um,
yeah, I want to, Sophia, thank you for clarifying what you were saying. She says there's no need to identify as anything, just be yourself. Um, you don't need
you
to
don't have to tell anything
tell
about you.
any, right.
I
And
see
it
what
would be,
she's saying. So I see what she meant by she means that the gender spectrum as a whole
right, making people
is
choose,
nonsense,
putting
right?
people into boxes, but that's what
Yes.
society does, right? We love to put you
Yes.
in boxes because,
Yes.
like, how do you
When she said that, I was
describe
like,
yourself?
I wonder if that's what she really meant because you see it too. Like the only reason that people have been pushed to come out, right? And Mac and
Mm-hmm.
I talked about this. No one walks up to a straight person and goes, how do you identify? Do you identify as straight? Can you define what straight means to you?
Right. So Georgia says people like neat categories. Well, there's nobody who comes out and says, "Hey, by the way, I just want to let you know I'm coming out as straight." Right?
Yeah.
It's
Really
not
funny.
a thing. So it's like, why is it such a huge deal for people then to come out as something other than
And for me, the
straight?
reason I do come out or put it out there just like full on is because I
Hmm.
disassociate out of my body. Like if I'm dating someone, and this happened in my 20s when I was with Carrington, my bad ex, is he was like, "You're my woman." Ugh, I hated that. That's how he talked. He's like, "You're my woman. You look cute in dresses." And like anytime I would dress in more more masculine clothes or like more emo clothes, like t-shirts, baggy jeans and stuff, he'd be like, "Well, you were so cute last week in that dress." And the more that he sort of pushed this on me, the more I disassociated. And the thing with me when I'm romantic with somebody or intimate, it's like I would prefer to be inside my body when that happens. But if they don't respect me and they're trying to mold me into a mental headspace that I'll just never be in, then what happens is I just disassociate out of my brain. And so we might be kissing, we might go to fourth base, and I'm not in my body, I'm not enjoying it because you're
not present.
seeing me for who I am. So that's why I have to come out, because it's like,
Well, yeah, and that makes perfect sense, to an intimate partner. I think, when we talk about, having to come out like to society in general, and we were talking about this before when we were kind of, going through everything that, society, we like neat boxes. We like to be able to classify you because putting a label on you then gives us an idea as to who you are, right, in our heads. Versus if we just said, listen, everybody is on the gender identity spectrum from she on one end to he on the other, right? And then there's a transition of like neither in between, just to simplify things.
yeah.
And then gender, we've got, 100% homosexual on one end and 100% heterosexual on the other end. And people fall somewhere in between. And instead of having to come out and label ourselves, that, and I think this goes to
Oh my God, it would be
Sophia's
so good to just exist and just have my existence accepted.
right. And I can understand, coming out to an
Like,
intimate partner and saying, hey, this is me, or, and this is what you need to accept because I'm not going to be this and I'm not going to be that. I
and
mean,
I would say the more that I have a
that just goes with
delineation.
communication, I think,
So for
with an intimate
example, like
partner.
I'm not necessarily fully out at work. This is a good example. I changed about like a year and a half ago. I changed my email sign off. You know, the part that says like your name, your job title, your
Right,
phone number.
right.
And after my name, I put they, them. And I just kind of
Mhm.
started sending out my email signature like that. And eventually someone in HR reached out and they're like, "What does this mean?" And I'm like, "So glad you asked." And I'll tell you, the thing is, when you're in a community where you have to hide who you are for your safety, and the biggest example I could use is trans people. Most people who transition, their whole point is to go stealth. Stealth, definition, everyone sees you as cis straight, even
Mhm.
if you're a male trans man and you're gay, like you like other men. The whole point is when people look at you, they don't even question. They're like, that is a man. That is a lot of their goal, is to just blend in.
And cis meaning
However,
how you were born, right?
yeah, how you were born. Yeah. So
Some
like if you're
people,
born a male and you identify as male, you would be cisgender. If you're born a male but are a trans woman, you would be transgender.
right, right. Just so
And
we
that's
get
just
the
like
terminology for everyone.
the example I use is like a lot of trans people don't come out as trans until a background check. Because for a lot of people, they've had to go back, they've had to go through all these hoops just to change their ID, which includes issuing a new birth certificate with their new name.
Right, right.
So, what does that do for your job history? Say I was a trans woman,
Oh, I never
not I
even
was
thought about
born a
job
woman.
history and being in a
Yeah.
different
Think
name.
about it. So if you spent until you were 18 as a man And
Right.
then you transition through your 20s to be a woman, and now your birth certificate, all your IDs, everything, social security number is under your new name, but you have to list all of your old jobs because you're trying to apply for a federal position.
Right.
You will not exist as your transition self before you were whatever age you were when you got
When
everything in
all
order.
your documentation changed, right.
So,
Yeah, I never thought about
unfortunately,
that.
they have to come out behind the scenes to HR because it could become a protection issue because there is homophobia.
Right.
And the other thing for me is the more I try to separate situations where I'm like, am I out here? Am I not out here? It just messes with my emotions.
I can imagine that.
I'm not the type of person who's different on this screen than I am off of it. Like we
Mhm.
talk about, there's definitely YouTubers who have a YouTube persona, and then
Mhm.
I'm not. I'm very much the same person. So for me to just be like, let me fake, right, acting like a woman and being called she, her all the time, and then go home and then have all my friends and family accept me. I can't. It's
It would just
harder
be
and harder.
yeah, that would be exhausting, especially when it's not something that you're doing for performing, right? You're performing if you
Yeah.
were putting on a fake persona for YouTube or, your Instagram or whatever, you're an entertainer. I mean, that's like, part of your job type of thing. And then you switch to this and then at home you're this. But when it is your own identity and
Yeah.
you're having to do that, I can see how that would be mentally extremely straining on you. Now,
Yeah.
we talked so it was kind of in your college years that as the terminology was coming out of non-binary and you started experimenting, you said, with fashion and clothes and started meeting other people who
Oh,
were
yeah, cutting my
not
hair, doing different
straight.
styles. Like, I was exposed to a lot more, ethnicity in college. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna say straight up, like, the side of my city I come from is very middle class white.
Mm-hmm.
Not my fault. I was raised there, but that's how it
Just where you
is.
were.
In
Yeah.
recent years, there's been more people who aren't white moving in, but that just, like, it makes the glaring thing, right? So when
Right.
I went to college, when people are coming from all across the country
Mm-hmm.
to go to college, you meet people or across the world even, because study
Yeah,
abroad and all that.
such a cross section
Yeah,
of population.
it was interesting because by the time I got to college, more terminology was being discovered not only in previous sociological studies of just populations and people in general, but it was becoming more of a pushback from society as a whole that like we should be
Mhm,
able to just exist as ourselves. Like we
mhm,
shouldn't I mean, Sophia's right. We shouldn't have to come out. We should just
mhm.
be able to have a girlfriend and be who we are and live our life. But unfortunately, that's not how society works.
Right.
There's just people, it blows my mind that people would be so bothered by my individual personality or who I am. It's like, but I'm well adjusted and causing no harm. So,
Mhm,
like, this is a bad extreme example, but one of my best friends in this whole world has very Catholic parents. Turns
mhm,
out they were abusive POSs,
mhm.
right? But they were the
Yeah.
quintessential two kid, two parent, middle class family
Mhm,
going to Catholic church every Sunday, saying, oh, Christian values, Christian values. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, they're abusing my best friend, neglecting
mhm,
them. So I'm like, listen, yes, if harm is being caused, it's the person doing the harm, not their gender identity, not their sexuality. It's the person themselves deciding to do harm to people. And there's this like
right.
zeitgeist in culture where they're like demonizing people in the community, right? Like there's this pushback currently. And it's just, it makes it harder to be authentically myself because no matter what I
Mhm,
wear, I have a very feminine figure. I have a very
mhm.
feminine voice. And honestly, I don't want to do voice training. I like my voice,
Yeah, right.
you know? So
This is me. I just don't happen to identify as one or the other. And let's talk about that a little bit. So, at what point then did you say, I think you said around maybe 2015 or so, you finally kind of, well,
yeah,
you came
I
out
kind
as
of,
that or decided, yeah,
yeah. So
non-binary fits me?
I use non-binary because having a they them pronoun is more accepted than not wanting any pronouns at all. And
It's
honestly,
it's hard in the English language.
it's easier professionally and socially to have a pronoun people can use.
Right.
Because otherwise they would just have to say indigo, 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 like all the
Right.
time,
Yeah.
every time they talked about me, right? That would get exhausting.
Right. Our English language isn't set up not to have
But
a
kind of when I
pronoun.
learned, when people started defining what non-binary was, I'm like, oh, maybe that's me.
And why don't you define in your own words what non-binary is and how you felt that that fit you?
Yeah, so technically the term I use is agender because I don't really mentally think I fit in any boxes, but in terms of non-binary, it's a more fluid terminology, right? It means that I could be presenting more masculine one day or more feminine the other, and I kind of still don't have a box that ticks.
Hmm.
There's still kind of a question there. And also it is more accepted like the was I maybe hopefully still is more accepted for there to be they them because it just erases the she her the he him thing. Because I
Right.
honestly think like clothing and hairstyle shouldn't be gendered. That's just my opinion. Like
Well,
hair is hair, clothes is clothes. Like why do we put so much stock in like, oh, you're dressing your daughter in like baby clothes from the boys section? I'm like, I'm dressing my daughter in clothes. I don't have a daughter.
right.
But like that
Right.
was one of the
Our patriarchal, society
yeah.
and the religions, really influence, at least in America and really around the world, um, how society in general is supposed to operate, right?
Yeah, so
And so,
non-binary kind of gave me the freedom to like go outside boxes. To
mhm.
be like, no boxes here. Maybe
And
dodecahedrons, but no boxes.
And then you actually brought up a new terminology that you kind of came to a few years later. And I actually didn't know about this. I had heard of people being asexual, meaning
Mhm.
that they don't enjoy the ultimate intimate act, but they can love, they can form connection, they can have, friendships, they may even like to hold hands or cuddle or even kiss. People fall kind of in a spectrum there, excuse me,
Mhm.
for the asexuality.
Yeah.
And you brought up to me the idea of agender, and I had actually never heard of that term before.
Yeah.
And so why don't you explain what that means and kind of how your journey from non-binary to agender went?
Yeah, so I think so basically like I said before, agender is that you don't relate to or fit into like any gender. So that could include using they them pronouns. Now I kind of adopted non-binary after agender because I was like, okay, but if I'm operating in the world and people are referring to me, they need a pronoun.
Hmm.
Because even we've seen other languages come up with ways to say they, them in French or German or whatever. So at least with the pronoun usage, I was like, okay, I could vibe with that because it's ambiguous.
Society is kind of, at least to some extent, generally accepted the idea of non-binary,
Yeah.
right?
And so for me, for agender, the complications that come there is like, okay, so in an ideal world, people would be just okay referring to me as Indigo all the time, but that could get
Mhm.
pretty exhausting because if you think I'm not using any pronoun to relate, that includes the derisive it that people sometimes use when they're being derogatory towards non-binary or trans people, right? Because they don't
Oh,
want to like,
ooh.
yeah, that's a whole thing. But for me, I think I was like, oh, agender fits more because I just don't mentally see myself as a gendered being. Like, isn't it
As
stick
male.
bugs? There's some kind of bug that like is a gender and just like basically copies itself. Like there's not a male female version of it. It just like clones itself, basically.
There are some, I know there are some
Yeah, when I found
animals
out about I'm
in
like,
the
"Look,
world
animals do it, so
that do
I can
that,
do it
right?
too." Well, I can't clone myself, geez, that would be overwhelming. Okay. I love myself, but more than one of me would be exhausting.
We're not going there. We're not going there. Well, as we were talking, I said, to me, the idea of non-binary spoke of the fluidity between sometimes I feel more male and sometimes I feel more female. So today I may wear a dress and tomorrow I may wear my pants, or,
Yeah,
today
and
I'm
I
going to
think
have more
generally speaking,
feminine, expressions, and today I'm not.
yeah. And
Versus
that could even
agender.
include, like, dressing masculine but wearing nail polish.
Hmm.
Like, things that have been pretty much by society, like, relegated to binary genders.
Hmm.
But nail polish is nail polish. It's polish for your nails. Why does it matter if a guy wears it versus a girl, for
Right.
example?
I don't think anyone in
But
society saw all those rockers who have worn nail polish and gone, "Oh, I wonder if they're not straight." Like, just because of their nail polish.
just because
Well,
of
as
the nail polish, yeah.
we were talking, is there's just something about an acceptance level for doing the extreme or being different when you're in the entertainment industry
Yeah.
versus just being a regular person in society. It's people can wrap their heads around going, oh, that's just their role, that's their persona, right?
Mhm.
That's, and so like David Bowie, when he was basically
Oh, his very
androgynous,
many
he came
iterations
out,
of himself that he
oh,
said in his
absolutely.
documentary, like, he said that he embraced these extreme versions of himself so that he could do art, but then he could have his own personal journey privately.
Hmm.
So it was easy for him to put on makeup and be Ziggy or like his very many personas. But if he found out something about himself in private, he could keep it private. Because he
Right.
would be like mentally inside his head, he would be like, well, this persona doesn't have that identity. I do.
Hmm.
And for me, I just kind of like exist in the world.
Hmm.
And I also kind of don't fall in love with people based on their looks
Hmm.
either. And so that was also a journey because I do know that people make, obviously, many studies have shown within 5 minutes of meeting you, people make assumptions, even if you don't want to admit it.
Right. We all do. We categorize things, or we look at things, or you know, somebody's eyes are going to be the first thing to draw me in. If you've got really great eyes, it doesn't matter the color, just their lashes, their
Okay.
eyes, their shape, or whatever.
Aside
That's one of the
from
things that's going to
being
draw me in.
tall, like I just gravitate towards tall people. There's
I
just
am the
something
same. I
about
have
tall
to
people.
say, I am the
But
same.
but
I've dated
also,
somebody my height before, but if I
how
have
can
a
I say it? Like,
preference,
it's the vibe they give off. Like, this is a good example. So, like, I stumbled upon a channel because YouTube was just like, "Hey, you watch like 5 other channels that do tarot. Why don't you try this one?" Right? The
hmm,
algorithm helped someone that day. And I was like, "You know what? I think I've seen this name in a chat. Let me go there." And I got such a
hmm,
good vibe off that person that I was like, "Oh, I'm going to subscribe."
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel that too, is like if your actions match your vibe, I'm attracted to you. If your actions are opposite your vibe, I'm like, uh,
You like authentic
what's going
people.
on?
You like
Yeah,
real people,
exactly.
right? Somebody who is putting off exactly what they are, inside, that you don't have to try and break it down and go, okay, are you putting this on for the world, but inside you really feel all this? That's
Yeah, and
exhausting.
I think for me, that's what kind of figured being more feminine was like putting on an act.
Mm-hmm.
Like even at work, like my normal talking voice is this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we all have a customer service voice, right? Hi,
Yeah.
thank you for calling. And I was
Oh,
like,
my son
why?
laughs at me. He goes, he's like, Jesus, Mom, you put on your nice voice or whatever. Hi, how are you? And he's like, and then I talk like this, what I'm just doing. He's just like, holy crap.
But
He
it's
gives me
like
such shit
women,
about it.
and this is another thing that I noticed is because I grew up playing like community sports that were co-ed, and I was like being socialized around boys in a non-stressful situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't orchestrated, right? We were picked to be on the same team. We had to learn how to be teammates, and we just happened to be opposite genders.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me realize I function in my brain like society wants a man to function. I'm like
Mm.
straightforward, I'm blunt, I'm people would say aggressive, I say assertive, but hey, they call assertive women aggressive all the time for some reason. But I'm very much like a hey, you're being a jerk and I'm going to call you out and then we're going to talk it through and then we're going to get burgers later. I'm not
Yeah.
about
If
you
you like
being
that,
mad
they
at
call a
me.
guy confident and they call a woman a biatch, right?
Yeah, and I'm like, no, I'm not about the whole you're mad at me at 5:57, but don't tell me till the next day at 4 p.m. Like just
Yeah.
tell me at 5:57 today that I did something that made you mad.
Right. Right.
Right? Because just be straightforward. And maybe my dad raised me to be that way. I don't know. So like all these thoughts would go in my head where I'm like, okay, these terms make me feel more powerful. And then having something that was outside the boxes that wanted to be ticked
Mm-hmm.
made me feel more free to just buy the clothes I wanted to wear, even if they were in the men's section, and not be embarrassed or not let salespeople kind of like make me feel awkward about it.
Just wear what you want to wear, express yourself
I
however
mean, it
you
is a
want to
little awkward
express
because my
yourself.
feet are small, so I have to like go to the boy junior section if I want men's shoes. Like if they're dress shoes or something, I can't just
Right,
like
right.
yeah, but
Yeah.
like but it's stuff
But
like
other than
that where
that,
it's like the more I embrace sort of like that in between zone, the more comfortable I feel. And
hmm
I don't like being pushed either direction. Not that
right,
anyone
right.
ever reads me as a male, let's be honest. But I'd be less mad about that than if I was only read as female. Like, you know what I mean? Like if I were to
Yeah,
like really go drag king, but like not that extreme. But like did my makeup to look more masculine, wear more masculine clothes, binded, did all that stuff.
right,
And
right.
someone was like, "Oh, he, him," I wouldn't be like, "No, they, them." I would just take the he, him because it's better than them being like, "Oh, she, her," and I'm like, "Clearly not."
You're like, that really doesn't fit for me.
Really doesn't fit.
Um, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is this, and we kind of touched on it when we touched before, and I'm going to go ahead and just mention this because um, Indigo has been out about this before, that I want to talk about the intersection between trauma and gender identity. And you had stated that, you had some trauma early on in childhood, some SA, um, but that overall you didn't think that that affected your gender identity journey very much. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, because the instance that happened, my mind completely blocked. Like it happened, and then I was not aware that it happened until like 3 years ago.
Wow, that
I
recently.
basically had a dream, and when I called my sister and I was like, "Oh, hey, because I guess me being open about going to therapy and like going on my own journey and stuff got her into therapy. So we've kind of been bonding over stuff. And I was like, well, I had this weird dream. And she's like, that's not a dream. That happened to you.
Wow.
And like I
Wow.
punched the person who did it. And I was like, oh, okay.
Well,
But
thanks for the
because I wasn't
validation.
aware of that, so like it happened when I was pretty young. I was unaware of it until my adulthood. So it never played into how I was with people. So like when I was younger, I was much more open, much more like hard on my sleeve, much more trusting. Now I was
Mhm.
with Carrington for 3 abusive years, so that kind of shut off the whole hard on my sleeve thing. Like I'm much more
Mhm.
reserved and observant now before I take the leap. And I sort of
Mhm.
miss what I learned about people when I was just open, because I feel
Mhm.
like when you put that openness out, it makes people comfortable to be open back.
Right.
But when they
Yeah,
see that you're
absolutely.
kind of like stiff and reserved, so it never really played into like my gender journey because
Mhm.
I wasn't aware of the memory during
Now,
my formative years. Like it may have if I had been
subconsciously.
aware of it, but
Well,
maybe, I don't know.
yeah, yeah, who
Good
knows
question.
subconsciously, but I know that you have a lot of people who are either, gay or lesbian or trans or, non-binary. You have a large community of a diverse
Oh, yeah,
crowd,
my
I guess.
friend, yeah,
Let's put it,
diverse crowd
yeah,
for sure.
diverse
Yeah,
crowd.
yeah.
We'll put it that way. And one of the things that I was reading, and one of the things that we know about trauma, right, and especially trauma in childhood and SA in particular, it can severely affect our self-perception or our identity of self. I've often spoke about the fact that, I don't know who I am. At a certain point, I went, I don't know what I think about that. I don't know who I am at my core. For me, it wasn't about a gender or a sexuality issue. It was just a who am I? But I can see how that very
Which can be
easily.
like I think bullying probably would have pushed me to be more introspective from an earlier age, because that was a near consistent thing from like grade school throughout middle school.
Mhm.
So I think that probably pushed me more towards being aware of these feelings earlier, but not understanding them because, right, we didn't have words. It wasn't talked about. It's kind of like that thing where when you silence something or there's not a word to explain it, you're kind of just like, well, I guess this is the way it is. Right?
Right. And I can see, just from a trauma aspect, how because that interrupts our self identity, that it can interrupt our identity either as sexuality. I see it. I have seen it so many times speaking to male survivors who
Oh,
were
yeah.
abused by males and wondering,
Mhm.
okay, eventually I actually physically liked this sensation. Does that make me gay? And it,
Yeah,
it
there's a lot wrapped up in there.
yeah, it totally messes their mind. Well, the same thing can be said for gender identity as well. If you have somebody who is forcing you to dress a certain way or is treating you a certain way, oh, you're my special little girl. Um,
And can we just like a little introduction there? Like, I wish society would stop giving free passes to female uh, PDF files and whatnot, and stop letting them cry on the stand and get lesser sentences. It's like, no, they're still an adult and did something horrible to
oh, female
whoever
SA
they did it.
abusers, you mean?
Yes, it drives me
Yes,
insane.
they're absolutely. Early on, I did a show about
And that can just
female
harm.
abusers, and
Just
absolutely, there
like you said,
it's
like especially with boys, because their parts are like more outwards.
Mm-hmm.
for that kind of stuff. It's like there's this feeling of like, oh, I liked it. So does that mean that it is wrong? Yes.
Right.
If someone's
Or
taking
does
advantage of you, it's wrong,
right,
and
absolutely. But then
it
it
can, yeah.
can mess with, how do I, well, if I liked it, does that mean I'm gay? And when you haven't had that awakening, say, that 10, 11, 12, gone 13, kind of gone through
Mhm.
that period when your hormones have all gone,
Started up and it's
started up, and you've started to really feel your attraction towards,
people,
in a
yeah.
true sexual way towards one person or another, or both. um
It can be disorienting, I think, too, because it's like you don't have the words to describe A, what happened, or B, the understanding. Like, obviously, as adults looking back, we can be like, oh, right? But like, we're
right,
adults. And I
yeah,
just wish
but
there was a easy way to have these like gender sexuality discussions, like be a normal part of society, because I feel like it would make a lot people feel a lot less guilty for having the feelings to begin with. Like if you question your
right, yes,
gender, there's nothing wrong with you. Like ask why. Or when people say, "Well, how do you know that this is your identity?" I'm like, "How do you know you're straight?"
right, you just feel it inside.
I have asked that question to bigots and they have not had an answer, and I guarantee you they were not given, well, I don't want to say bigots. I want to say maybe people who aren't aware
Mm,
of or around people in the community. It's like,
insensitive,
well,
uneducated.
you're born, your parents unintentionally or intentionally enforce the binary that society created. Media enforces it. I mean, think of even shows back in the 2000s that had gay characters.
Right,
It wasn't main characters. It was secondary characters, and they didn't even come out half the time and actually admit it while the
yeah,
show was
besides
on
like
the
Ellen.
air.
Ellen or Will and Grace, those are about the only
Ellen
ones that
Ellen lost her job when she came out as
yeah,
lesbian. Like that's
because I
the thing
remember when that
now
happened.
these days is like if I needed to, I can just blend back in. I mean, mentally, emotionally, I would need therapy every day. But like physically, if I had to for safety purposes, but like friends of mine who are swing one way or the other, like they look more masculine or they look more feminine, but they're trans males or trans females. Some of them can't go back. They wouldn't want to. But now
Right.
that they've been in their journey for as long as they have, it's like when you have to question your safety and your
Hmm.
stability because of who you are, it forces you to have to come out. Back to like the comment where someone's like, we shouldn't have to come out. We shouldn't have to.
Right.
But if I don't and I have a platform where I can like educate people and I can like, I'm not good with the patience with ignorance. Like
Hmm.
it's I guess my vice in this world is I'm like, there's books, there's a literal real science, there's literal animals. Like, if you don't want to
Right.
believe it happens in the people kingdom, it happens in the animal kingdom. And if you want to I'm not going to bring religion into it that much, but I'm like, God made the animal that way.
Mhm.
That's what the doctrine says or the belief
Yeah.
says. So it's like, I do want to educate people, but I do draw my boundary at like, if somebody doesn't want to change their mind, that's not what I'm out here to do. I'm out here to
Right.
provide the education and the resources to educate yourself. But if you still believe what you believe, I can't change that,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But I think the more we open the discussions and the more we talk to our communities about ways to have these discussions with kids, and unfortunately, it's a top down kind of thing. It's like maybe we need to start with the parents and the grandparents and have open community panels where they can ask the ignorant questions and start learning how this is real and all that.
Right. It really
because
does need to be a society-wide conversation. It's just about I look at it as no different between talking about, a topic like that for you as it is for me talking about different forms of trauma, whether it's sexual assault or domestic abuse or, narcissistic abuse, whatever it
and I
is.
will give you
That
that too,
when
like
we get these in front of people and we force them to look at this and say, listen, these are real
when you
issues. You may not
personalize
have them
it.
in your life, but they are
Yeah.
out there.
Or here's the thing that happened in my journey, mainly the journey when I came out as not sexually straight.
Hmm.
My parents were like, do you know who Matthew Shepard is? Do you know that there's going to be situations where it won't be safe for you to tell someone the person you brought to the party is your girlfriend?
Hmm.
And they reacted initially with fear because they had seen such violent, horrible attacks on people who were, I wouldn't say necessarily that Matthew was like aggressively out. He was just existing as a gay guy in Wyoming.
He was just known to the community,
He was
and he
known to
was
the community.
targeted as a hate
Wasn't,
crime for that. And if for
yeah.
anybody who doesn't know, he met a very violent end, and
Yeah, I will
strictly
say
because
trigger
of
warning, Google it, but trigger warning. But it's like
definitely.
these topics keep coming up because if this wasn't part of human nature to be fluid with these things, these issues wouldn't come up, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Chemically, scientifically, internally, we don't understand a lot about our own brains. And I think the more you force people to fit into any box, the more it forces them to ask the question, why? Who am I? What do I believe? And if you find you come up against somebody who's like really stubborn, just answer the questions they've asked and leave it. Or
Hmm.
reinforce your boundary. Like the main one I had with my friends when my best friend came out was it had been like half of a year and people were still using his old pronouns. And I was like, guys, it's been 7 months. His name is James. Like, his name is XYZ.
Right.
Use he, him. Like, if you're going to use anything.
Hmm.
Right.
I
So I
think
think it's
really,
that too.
absolutely, and I think in general and it comes down to respect, and that even if we disagree, even if you don't see the issue, even if you can't understand the issue, at least have enough respect for the other person not to treat them as less than because they
Or,
don't fit your mold.
yeah, or on the reverse side, and I might get hate for this, if you're an identity that someone is struggling to understand, if they are at least making the effort to correct themselves or say, oh, shoot, sorry, I meant this, give them grace. Like, I mean, think about how hard it is after 18 years to figure out who you are. Now, think
Oh,
about that from
yeah.
the perspective of your parent literally birthed you into this universe and they've known you your entire life. It's going to take time for them or even new people to
Hmm.
get comfortable changing what they're used to. Like, I mean, you see her a lot, but that's okay.
Have I done that today?
You did. You're See, the way you're reacting,
See,
it's
and I
like,
didn't even know it. I did not even know I did it.
yeah, and see, that's
Oh,
what I'm saying
yeah.
is like have grace for people because if you're out here trying to be your authentic self, you have to let people make the effort to change. You can't just be
Mhm.
like, I'm mad you haven't changed in 24 hours. I'm like, there are some instances of people in my life where I probably won't enforce the they them boundary or even come out because at this point they're so old that it's like
Right.
the eras that they lived through, it will be too much of a trauma in their brain to fix it. I don't know if that makes sense. Like generational
No, I
traumas,
understand.
family
Yeah.
traumas work into that
Mhm.
mental block. So it's not them doing it by choice. It's like a subconscious record scratch, right? They're like,
Yeah.
oh, what do I say? She, because the record scratches, and they're like, oh no, shit, it was they, but crap,
Yeah. I'll
you
get
know.
it. I
So
swear to God, I'll get it. And one day
you're
it'll
not-
just be automatic for me. Oh my gosh. I thought I was so
that's
careful
what the
about it
MX
today.
stands for, by the way.
What?
MX
Yeah.
is for they, them. It's like Mr. or Mrs.
I never knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I never knew that. Well, maybe that'll help me when I see that on here. Hi,
And I
Brian.
kind of
How are
made
you
the joke
doing?
putting it in brackets because I was like, Indigo Twin trademarked MX. You know how they put TM in brackets when something's
Yeah.
trademarked? I was like, that's
Yeah.
me.
There you go. Carmel, welcome to you. I know Jimena popped in for just a minute to say hi. So,
I
hello
did
to
see her,
all of
yeah.
you.
But yeah, I
I'm gonna-
mean, the wild thing about journeys is, I mean, I've obviously been fluid. Like 18 years, I was like she, her all the way. And then I was like they, them. And then internally, I was like no gender. And, you know, in 50 years, if for some reason I swing back to she, her, it's all still valid.
Right.
Like we
It's
have
just
to stop
you.
erasing people's journeys. Erasure is a huge thing, especially with bisexual people as well. If somebody comes to you even 6 months after and they're like, actually this, go with it. They're figuring out who they are. Now it's hard when you're emotionally and invested in people for years and years, of course, like
Mm-hmm.
changes are hard to make, but at the same time, if you're open to somebody being fluid with their expression and they see you as a safe person, they
Mm-hmm.
have at least one other person in this world who makes them feel like it's worth being themselves.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people stay closeted, and that does so much damage.
Right.
So much damage to people because it messes with you mentally,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally. It's that topic of like, oh, at home with my friends, I can be whoever I want. But at work, I'm seen as cis and straight, but really I'm
Mm-hmm.
gay. But like I'm
Right.
only gay at home. How
Mm-hmm.
long can one person maintain a delineation like that before
The
they break
mental,
down?
right. The mental strain of
And I
doing
had it
something
too. Like
that's,
I was perceived as straight when I was dating
mm-hmm.
my girlfriend and I was working for a semi-conservative company at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
people are like, oh, why don't you bring your partner to the work Christmas party? And I was like, oh, unfortunately, they're out of town with their, like, I
That's a
came
whole
up
other can of
with,
worms that I'm
but
not
I
willing
came
to
up with
open
some
up here, guys.
plausible, but right, but like it's that
Yeah.
plausible excuse, right? Oh, sorry, they're out of town or they already had plans. People understand that. But what they
Yeah.
don't understand is I'm not out at work
Yeah. Right.
at that job. What am I supposed to do? Put my girlfriend through my coming out in a situation where I have no idea if the people that we would be coming out to just by existing in the room together as a couple. This is not even like verbally stating it. It's like I walk in and we're like clearly together.
Right.
Am I going to put someone I love through that? No. Because if I'm
You don't know
unsure if
how
I'm
anyone's gonna,
safe,
right. You don't
I am
know how
not
someone's
putting
gonna
them through
react.
that reaction either. So that's something I have to think about too, is like I luckily pass this as straight if I have to. I don't
Mm-hmm.
prefer it, but if I have to, like if I'm out with friends who can't, you know, reverse blend is what I call it
Mm-hmm.
for any reason, and I'm the one who's perceived as fitting the binary box and that gives safety to someone, I will 100% just not correct people. If it's
Oh,
to protect other people that around me,
right.
because you know, I mean, I have trans
That's
friends,
good of you. Right.
I have
That's good of
super
you.
flamboyant gay friends, love them to death, but they're definitely gay. Like, you know what I mean?
Those
There
ones
are
that you're
people you
like,
meet who are like super polished, their mannerisms are super contained, but they're gay, and you're like, I never would have clacked that. And then there's people that are just
oh
like
yes.
Jack from Will and Grace. Like,
Yeah, yeah, 100%
you know,
right. Yes, very
there's the Wills
flamboyant,
of the
very
world and the Jacks of the
effeminate.
world. And yes,
Yes.
those extremes are stereotypes, but
few
stereotypes.
exist. They exist.
Stereotypes
We
come
get
from a little bit of
stereotypes because they
truth.
come from some truth. There are people who act like that. But yet I have met, and we talked about this, I have met some extremely flamboyant, when I say flamboyant, I should clarify, some effeminate acting men who actually are straight. And I'm like, really? Okay, if you say so. I mean, I can't correct
And you know
you, but wow,
interesting,
that's
and
just really
might be a
different, you know?
slightly controversial opinion. I think that men raised by single mothers fall into kind of two stereotypical extremes. One, they become like super stereotypical, like man of the house, manly, but can still be emotional. And then you have the exact reverse where people are like, well, what are you, a girl, right? Like, because they're more in tune with their emotions, they're more expressive, they're less broy and more just chill.
Mm,
Because I've noticed that of my male friends raised by single moms in my personal life, like that
interesting.
dynamic.
Yeah, interesting. I don't think I've seen that in my life of the women. I mean, because my son was pretty much raised by me, and he's got many friends who were as well. I don't see that quite as much, but I mean, not to
It
say that
might
it
be
doesn't
more
exist.
because
It could be more
society,
generational as well.
yeah, I was going to say generationally, I think the more we destigmatize people and just say, like, okay, so your son holds his hand this way, just let him do it. It's comfortable. Like,
Right.
you don't put too much pressure on people because I feel like it's that pressure that kind of makes people form a mold. And it's interesting, the more people I talk to in your generation,
Mm-hmm.
because guys, like, let's reiterate, she graduated high school when I was born.
Yeah.
Just think about the decades of difference we've experienced in terms of society changes.
Yeah. Me growing up in the 70s and 80s versus you growing up in the
90s and
90s and
early 2000s.
2000s. Yeah.
But like you
Huge
said, we
difference.
have so many discussions where I'm like, I'm so frustrated with this person who's this old and blah, blah, blah. And then someone like you'll say, well, this was happening. Maybe that's influencing how they're seeing this situation. And then my brain goes, woo, like,
Well, it's just like when you spoke about your parents when they were coming
yeah,
from your coming out as your sexual coming out from a point of fear because we grew up with anti-gay being huge, and then you had the AIDS epidemic,
yeah,
and there were people blaming
yeah.
the world for that and
And
going,
then you had like
see,
Brandon
this is
Tina
what
and
you get,
Matthew
this is
Shepard and
yeah.
all those
And so
guys.
it was so much different in terms of those things. I
In the
wanted to
70s
mention,
and 80s fascinate me because I feel like the gay community was very stigmatized, but hair metal, like completely straight guys were dressing in skin tight leather and painting their face with grease and wearing crazy outfits. And it's like, how did, like, on one
well,
hand,
again,
self
and
expression,
Bowie
on
was
the other,
huge. Bowie was huge in the 70s.
oh,
And
yeah,
so was Iggy Pop. And again, like I said, there's something about the entertainment industry that made it palatable for people. And not everybody, because there were older generations going, okay, that's the devil's music or whatever, look at them, they shouldn't be doing that.
satanic
But
panic.
at least,
Christ.
overall, there was more acceptance of it because it's performance, just like a cabaret or, anything,
Drag queens are
yeah,
another
drag
like
queens, they started
performance.
coming
Like,
up. Right, and then it started coming up more with the 70s and stuff, but it wasn't on the big stage, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's still like
s-
yeah.
but even
Yeah.
so, if people are going to be accepting of it, yeah, it's they can separate it in their minds and say, okay, this is just for performance, this is just for art, this is for whatever,
Oh my gosh.
no one really looked at
Speaking of,
Patrick Swayze or Wesley Snipes differently because they did Tu Wong Fu, right, from Julie Newmar,
oh, that's right.
that
Yeah.
movie. I mean, and John Leguizamo was in that as
Oh,
well.
and you had Mrs. Doubtfire,
Oh, yes,
where the
Robin
whole thing of
Williams.
the movie is that the dad cross dresses to be able to see his kids.
Right. He's
And then
right.
at the
And
end
so
they're like, you're not mentally stable, and he's like, I am. Like,
I was just doing this to see my kids. Yeah. So again, no one, no one looked at Dustin Hoffman and said, "Oh, I don't think that you're not straight or whatever just because you played this role." There's something about the entertainment industry. Few comments. Crystal said, "I love it when kids ask me if I'm a boy or a girl. I let them know it's okay to ask because usually the parents are trying to tell them it isn't okay to ask." And then she lets them know that she's a girl.
I
Um,
love
I
that
think
too
it's better
because
to
it gives
I
that
think it's better to
open.
ask than to assume, right?
Or think about this. Kids ask why about everything
Yeah.
between the ages of 2 and forever. But like mainly 2 and 7, like why?
Yeah, curious little minds. DeAndrea made an interesting comment that she said an odd experience when uh, she was working. A student asked to be moved out of a class because there were too many straight cis people in their class. She said that she would move them no problem, but she didn't know anybody's gender identity or sexuality, so she couldn't make any promises. Right? It's not like there's a box on the school forms that you have to tick
But think
to
about it, like
say
if
I'm
it
this
was
or this.
accepted, right? Like if it was just accepted for people to be like, obviously for medical reasons, certain people have to know your gender at birth just because we're different chemically and medically. But in terms of schools, I don't see a problem with like if a trans kid is just figuring out who they are, just switching the pronouns because they asked you to. Like, why? Like, that's not a hard thing to do. Or just
Hmm.
not making a big deal about them changing how they dress. Like, just let kids express themselves because, like I said, like, if we were in a world where people could just express themselves, maybe David Bowie wouldn't have felt like an alien. Maybe he
Hmm.
wouldn't have had a lifelong identity crisis and created all these extreme entertainment personalities to try to figure out who he was if he was just able to experience fashion and makeup without judgment. And that's the thing is like if you want people to accept you without judgment, you have to accept them learning without judgment. And it's really hard because people say really insensitive things, but you
Hmm.
can tell when they mean it from a place of genuine ignorance
Hmm.
and not purposeful ignorance. To define those, genuine ignorance would be like someone asking like a question and using a term that's offensive because they just don't know
They don't know it's
versus
offensive.
the person on the other side knowing it's offensive and saying it anyway to try to hurt you.
Right.
And you have to
Right.
be able to differentiate between those two things. And that's why coming out is not just a one time thing, it's a multiple step process throughout your life,
Hmm.
unfortunately, because not everybody has access to the information.
Well, you meet different people along the way, right?
Oh, yeah,
So it
for
just,
sure.
kind of depends on the situation that you're in. I mean, it'll be a whole nother ball game depending on, what kind of new job you eventually get as well and how you decide to navigate that.
Europe
Brian
was
says,
more accepting, Carmel, I think. Like American countries in some ways were a bit more accepting of the community before the US was. Or maybe that's just how I look at it with hindsight.
no, I think it was, and I think that's why it
Or
was
like
easier. I mean,
France, for
Bowie really
example.
Bowie always, lived overseas. I mean, he toured here, but he always lived overseas. Krumel said his
Mhm.
uncle came out in 1968 when he was married with two kids, and it was accepted by society. For those of you who don't know, Krumel is in Europe, and I think that they've always. uh, I think in terms of gender and sexuality, Europe has always been decades ahead of
I
the
would say in some
US.
areas they have, like in some countries, and I don't know if it's just because our country came from a rebellion. Like people exited one country for being persecuted, came to another country, and then, history happened. I wonder if that plays into it too, just like that
Well,
maybe
we
the
came from
discussions
such a
came up sooner or in a more palatable way for the European society than it did for America.
Well, America was built on Puritan values, which were extremely strict and,
Oh my gosh.
no nonsense, no, so you say patriarchy, and then add Puritan values on top of that. And that's what our country was built on. So anything besides that has really had to grow
Yeah.
and push
And I
and
would say
make extreme efforts to be accepted.
I would
It's just
say
like how
also
Europe,
like
nude beaches or topless beaches is a no-brainer, right? And over here, to have a topless beach, it
people
would
are
be
like
in
people are
99% of
like,
the places would be.
OMG, nudists exist? Yes, some people just don't like clothes, honestly. Like, leave them alone.
But
No,
to be on a yeah, to be on a beach where somebody's boobs are hanging out. Oh God, no. Let's
that's
not
another
expose our
discussion
children
is
to
like
that.
men's and women's bodies are seen so differently here because Puritan culture puts all the responsibility for purity on women. And so
In
when
in
women do
in
stuff
general.
like wear pants or try to look more masculine or kind of use crass language, it gets this immediate visceral pushback because there's been so much fed into people's brains about like even thinking about me being socialized. And I don't think my parents did it on purpose. It's one of those society was like that, so it just kind of happened that way where they're
Hmm.
like, "Oh, just try to talk softer. Don't be so loud." Um, don't, I don't think they did it on purpose, right? It's all subconscious, the way you pick up other people acting. Because, like, when you're more assertive, like when I started getting more assertive about my boundaries and my pronouns and just like, this is who I am and what I'm passionate about, I got people dropping out of my life because they said I turned mean. And I'm like, I'm not mean. I'm just asserting myself. Like,
Right,
I'm
I'm
not
asserting my boundary.
letting people take advantage of me. I'm not letting people bully me anymore. And it took a long time for me to figure out how to navigate that, especially in the professional world where bullies
Hmm.
get into management positions or like even at my current workplace, I have issues because there's people intimidated about how much knowledge I have.
Hmm.
And so they don't want to put me back on an old team because of how other people can't handle their feelings. That sounds like a
Right.
really mean way to say it, but again,
No,
being direct,
right.
right?
I
Like,
understand what you're saying. It's interesting. Kermel also says Europe, being Europe, decades behind concerning, SA, and
yeah,
he's
the Ian
100%
Watkinses of
correct.
the world, jeez.
He's 100% correct, and it is an interesting dichotomy that they are much more open about sexuality, but yet when it comes to assault, they're much behind the US in terms of how the legal system and even more society at large views that,
Especially
which
when
is
you think about like the
a
big
really
ones like
interesting dichotomy.
Seville and Ian Watkins and like just the decades of trauma these people caused because they got into positions of power and money.
Hmm.
That's the other thing. If we could discuss gender in a way that just made it like this is mom's casserole recipe, but also gender. Like it just was normal. Like,
Right.
how you talk to your kids, you're like, hey, if somebody is being mean to you at school, like a lot, like pushing you around, you got to tell me because, like, I need to keep you safe. If we could just insert, like, hey, it's okay if you want to dress up in my closet. I won't judge you. Maybe they get
Hmm.
over it. Maybe they're not gay. Maybe they just like theater. I don't know. Just let your kids be open with you because if they can't be open with you, it's going to cause a lot of internalized anger and phobia. Like
Right.
internalized homophobia is very common, especially people who originate in the South. Just
It can make some of your dysphoria even worse because
it
you
can,
don't have
yeah.
any way to express it. And that's one of the reasons that trauma can affect people with gender identity issues is, disassociating from their particular gender because of what happened to them, and they don't want to be that, um, because they don't want to attract that kind of attention. And so it's another way that trauma can kind of play into it. Um,
Oh yeah.
we're going on an hour and a half here, and my
Yeah, we
voice is
should
starting to
probably.
fail,
Yeah,
so
I
I'm
was
gonna
gonna say,
have
do you
to
want to end
wrap
so you
up.
could drink some tea with
Um,
honey? Or wait, you're not allergic to honey, are you?
no, I've got tea. I didn't put any honey in it, but I do have tea with me right
The
now. But
honey
I have
helps
to
the
the
roughness part of
coating.
it.
I
I'll have
do
to
have to
figure
bring
out
up
what my
Crystal's comment because I absolutely love this. She said,
no,
when I worked in a
I was
pool,
gonna say something similar earlier.
when I worked in a pool, I saw some guys that came in with bigger boobs than some of the females, and they didn't have to cover their chest. Double standard.
You know what's
Touche.
crazy too?
Touche.
Another crazy double standard is people are like, "Oh, women can walk around in bikinis, but we can't watch them breastfeed in public.
Right, right.
We can watch women be strippers, but they can't breastfeed in public." I'm like, "The baby is hungry, get over it." Or give her a safe room somewhere to go do it. But if you're not going to do that, then or like my
I
dad
mean,
said when he raised my
most
sister,
people, if you're going to sit down on a bench somewhere, they're going to throw a towel over themselves, and it's like, okay, so
they're going to
they're
be discreet.
breastfeeding.
It's all
What?
the weirdos being weird that make it weird. But my dad was also saying when he raised my sister, because my mom traveled a lot when she was growing up in the 80s, my dad was like, there were no changing rooms in men's bathrooms. And he couldn't go in the women's room to change her. So he would often throw down the diaper pad
Yeah,
and change her like in the middle of the airport. And when people would yell at him for it, he'd be like, "You don't give me anywhere to take her. I'm not taking her to
right.
the men's room and putting her on the floor."
Because we pee on the floor.
Because, yeah, right?
And there's no room between the sinks. No, I get it. Yeah, I get
Exactly.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Indigo,
Thank you
for
so
coming
much.
and having this conversation with us. I
For
know
sure.
it's not our normal trauma talk. Trauma does feed into it. And some people have, like we were saying, some people have much more difficult journeys because of trauma, whether it is from an outside trauma, such as, SA, or whether it's from internal trauma. By internal, I shouldn't even say internal trauma. Um, a trauma such as SA, or a trauma such as how they're being treated just because of their journey. And I'm thinking of mainly people at home, where they have issues with their parents and basically getting bullied from their parents. That
Hmm.
constant, I mean, that's trauma, right? And that constant wearing down of yourself, and you're trying to go on a journey here, and yet you're being told by these people who are raising you that you can't. So,
No problem,
hi,
miss. We
Misha.
love ya.
Yeah, exactly. No
Anyone on the
worries.
replay player lurkers, love you too. Please subscribe and hit like for Mac.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for reminding me. Absolutely. Yeah. If you guys are watching on replay, if you can even just comment replay, it helps push the
A
show
good
out to
follow-up
everybody.
topic might be the intersection of trauma and gender.
That's something that we can explore as well. Yeah. And trauma and sexuality is mm, an issue as well, as we kind of mentioned briefly on here, but that, can influence people drastically in some cases, as to how they see themselves. And, I've known personal cases of that, and it could be an extremely difficult journey to be able to figure themselves out when they've got
Mhm.
this pressure of of having, the trauma in their past and trying to figure themselves out. So absolutely. Well, guys, we are on next on Saturday. It is Laugh Saturday. Our very
Oh,
own
yeah, it
Body
is.
Illusion. It is. Body Illusion is going to be joining me, and she sent me a
Oh, she's
wonderful.
hilarious.
It'll be fun.
She's
We've been trying to
perfect for Laugh
connect.
Saturday. Why did we never think of that before?
But we had tried, and then she was kind of off YouTube for a while, and so we
Yeah.
didn't connect. And now she's been
Oh,
back for a little while,
such a
so we got to
riot.
connect again. So
I learned such
we,
weird and funny facts from her.
yeah, I love doing that. I know she'll bring Saturday, whatever Saturday's day is. I know she'll bring it, and I've got a list as well, and we've got some really funny signs that have been put up. Some were actual
And
official
that's 2
signs. Some
p.m.
were. That'll be 2 p.m. your time. It's 3
my
p.m.
time,
Eastern.
3 p.m.
2
Eastern. Yeah.
p.m. Yep, 3 p.m. Eastern and 2 p.m. Central, noon on the West Coast. So, oh, and no, I didn't tell anybody. I've booked my Vancouver tickets.
I'm so excited for
yes,
you.
I am so excited. We still don't have our details yet. Like I said, for hotel, we're supposed to be getting those.
You know
I'm
what
going to
you
guess
should
within the
do?
next couple of weeks. But I did finally book the tickets. So thank you,
You
guys.
should
As
put
soon
a
as I know
shelf
my
up in the
hotel,
background with your little trophy.
yeah, I need to get something up. I do. I need to get my other paintings actually hung on the wall as well.
I'm so excited for you. Are they releasing the book on Amazon?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it definitely will be on
So are they
Amazon.
doing like the launch is what you're going to, then after you get back, we'll be able to get the book on Amazon?
I think so.
Okay.
I think November 7th, when it's the day of the launch, I think it'll be available on November 7th.
Okay,
But
perfect.
also, I will be getting some hard copies delivered to me at some point. I'm guessing sometime in November, and I'm going to be giving away some hard copies as well. So I'll have
Ooh.
some raffle giveaways of the book too. So you can join me. I'll
bribe you for a
post
copy.
and let you know. There you go. I'll definitely post when I'm doing that so everyone can join.
I'll just
for it.
mail
But
you an empty return envelope with an arrow in it.
yeah, when I know how big it is, we'll work something out. Well, guys, thank you. We hope to see you on Saturday for Laugh Saturday at 3 p.m. Remember, you are worthy, you are valuable, and you are loved just the way you are for who you are. So hugs and love from us. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Surviving together, never alone.
Never
Enjoy the
alone.
outro. Exactly. Enjoy the outro.
Through the fire, through the rain, we have walked through endless pain. But we stand, we rise again. Stronger now, we break the chain. Surviving together, hearts open wide, lifting each other through every tide. The past may have shaped us, but it won't define. Together we heal, together we shine. we see.